Hello and welcome. 2023 is almost over, which means it's time for our Road to GOTY catch-up video. Where are we at for the year? What did we not get to touch this year? And what are we still hoping to finish for the year? So let's get started. I finished 14 games this year and put varying amounts of time into 10 more, and that may not seem like a super high number to you, but I spent a good chunk of the year playing Guild Wars 2 and beating 2 expansions there and getting a good chunk of the way into the newest expansion. I got 2 legendaries there, and I also spent a good chunk of the year playing Lord of the Rings Online.
So this is...
It deflected my debuff.
Yeah. It's not even bothering to fight him. It's like, yeah, good try, buddy.
All right, here we go.
Rot spittle.
The hell I didn't move, run!
It's chasing
It's
you.
faster than me.
Yeah, it's catching up. It's catching up. It's, hey, he's dead. I'm leaving.
I'm not going to apologize. I know what I've done. I can't take the time back, and I wouldn't even if I could, because I had a blast and made some great videos, and I really, really enjoy those games. They're not going to count for this GOTY at all, but just know that that's where some of the time went. But send your hate comments all the way. I know you're going to be mad when you see some of the games I didn't touch. So let's start with the games that I did finish, then we'll get into the games that I haven't yet finished and hope to finish, then we'll get into the games that I'm not going to get to touch this year, although some of those might sub in for some of the games on the, hey, I played this, I'm probably not going to finish it list, because some of those just aren't happening. The year started with Fire Emblem Engage, the first review for the year, fun game, really like the mechanics of it, even if I think the story is pretty poor. Ultimately, I had a good time with it. I don't know if it's going to hang with the rest of this year because it's been an incredible year for games, but I did really like it. After that was Chained Echoes, which technically came out at the start of the year, end of last year. Regardless, I played it this year. Great game. Wonderful game. Love the mech combat. Love the overdrive mechanic. Absolutely worth playing as an RPG. If you are a fan of RPGs, if you're a fan of mechs, I think you should absolutely check it out. And I loved the story. Really, really liked that cast of characters. After that was Tears of the Kingdom. You might have noticed that there has not been a review for Tears of the Kingdom yet on the channel. That's because there's still some things I need to go back and do in Tears of the Kingdom, and I don't feel like I've given it its due for a full-on review. But I have beaten the game. I have done a lot of the side content, but I haven't yet done all of it. And I do have a weird policy with reviews where I have to do as much side content as I can because it could affect the way I look at the game. So that's why there hasn't been a review yet, which means it probably will be next year before the review for Tears of the Kingdom comes out. But I really, really enjoyed my time with it. I put almost 100 hours into it, and it's really, really good. Final Fantasy 16 is next, and it's also really, really good. I like the story a lot. I love Clive as a character. I liked the action quite a bit, even if some of the icons are not as strong as others. Ultimately, I think it's really solid. I think the music is great. I don't know if it's going to make like my top 5, but it is probably going to make my top 10. It's a really solid game. We'll see how things shake out at the end of the month when I have 10 more games that I have to try and fit into that top 10 along with the 14 I've already beaten. The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog was next, and this was just a blast to play. Finished it on stream. It was really, really good. I like it a lot. Just a fun little experience with Sonic characters, which is a universe I already love anyway. Quite a fun little visual novel. We're not going to count the Guild Wars 2 expansions here, but this is when I put the time into them. Icebrood Saga, and End of Dragons, and then Secrets of the Obscure. So technically 3 of those, and then also leveling characters for fun in LOTRO and getting up to my War Steed and Rohan and everything there. We're not going to count that for this, but just know that's where this time started and didn't end until last month when I realized that it was November. After that was Trails into Reverie, which I absolutely adore. I think Trails into Reverie took what was already a great cast of characters from 3 different arcs in the games, and it gave them even more great new development. I think there are a couple missteps here and there, but otherwise Reverie is absolutely a must-play RPG. Only if you've played the others. You can just play Reverie, but you're missing out on so much if you start with Reverie. You should really just start with Sky, play all the way through. I did it over the course of 1 year, and it was absolutely worth it. After that was Venba. Venba is great. I really enjoyed Venba. Venba was just such a fun little experience. Beat that on stream as well. Loved the cooking, loved the art, loved the music, loved the story. perfect little 2-hour game. Absolutely wonderful. You should play it for sure. After that was Armored Core 6, which also ate up a bunch of my time because I beat it 5 times. Yes, you heard me right. 5 times. Yes, I know you only have to beat it 3 times for the sake of getting the true ending. Yes, I know that the 4th time was on stream, which means that after that stream, I went back and beat it a 5th time. I'm not going to apologize. I absolutely adore Armored Core 6. It's one of the best games ever made, in my opinion, and it is incredible. Wonderful game. You should play it. After that was Hi-Fi Rush, which is super unique and super cool. A rhythm game that is also a character action game. I love Hi-Fi Rush. The review's not out for it yet either because I'm in buckle down, do Game of the Year mode. But at some point, either this month or next month, all of those reviews will start pouring out for the games that I'm about to mention. The Cassette Beasts review got out already, even though I beat Hi-Fi Rush the night before because I was playing both at the same time. But Hi-Fi Rush, absolutely incredible game. And yeah, it's a weird one to review because I don't think I recorded the audio for it, but I don't think I did a very good job getting my thoughts across. I'm going to re-record the audio for it, but I really, really like that game. I hear the soundtrack in the back of my head every time I talk about that game. That dun 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 dun. Also incredible that they gave you 2 versions of the soundtrack. One that you didn't have to worry about copyright, so you could stream it, you can play it. We're going to stream that game at some point just because it's so good. And one that you could do at home, which has an incredible soundtrack with some great musicians. They're both really, really good. I think I prefer the streamer version, personally. I think there's some more tracks that fit better with the game that way, but that's going to get me in trouble in the comments, so we're going to move on. Cassette Beasts is the next game that I finished, and it's the last game that already has a review out. I really liked Cassette Beast. I think after you beat the game, you don't need to go for the true ending. You don't need to go for all... It was a bunch of busy work that didn't feel necessary, and it took a very long time, and I kind of hated it. And there's another game on this list that is the exact same way. But other than that, if you stop at the regular ending, Cassette Beast is a really, really good game. And maybe if you're not trying to beat it for Game of the Year and you take your time with all that and just boot it up and do a couple of the errands a day, eventually you'll get it done and it'll be a fine experience. But trying to just do it all, it took like 8 hours. And I hated those 8 hours. I loved that game, and those 8 hours were not worth it. Otherwise, excellent game. Really, really good monster collecting game. There's some wonderful decisions when it comes to mechanics in there about how the different types interact that I think other monster collecting franchises could learn from. And I really think it's worth playing. Just don't worry about the true ending. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead, since we're talking about that, to Sea of Stars. Fun little RPG. I think it could have been mechanically a lot deeper. And I think that story-wise, the main 2 characters kind of fall flat. But otherwise, I really enjoyed the game. The side characters are all super interesting. The world is great. The art looks great. The sound is great. The true ending is not worth it. Yet again, you beat the game. You get an okay ending. You go and do a bunch of busy work, and some of it is fine. Some of it is cool side quest stuff where you get more story, new scenes, some cool stuff happens. And then some of it is, hey, just go collect 60 of this secret item. You've been finding them all game, right? You pulled up a guide when you first started so you could have them all, right? No? No? Okay, go find them all. And if you didn't have a guide, good luck remembering which ones you already got. It took me like 5 hours to go back and check every location so I could make sure I had them all. I'll give you a quick tip. This will be in the review as well. After I beat it, I realized that there's a parrot on the map that it tells you if you still have a conch to find there. Would have been super helpful to know sooner. But anyway, I don't even know how I unlocked that thing. But other than the ending not being great, I do think it's a really fun game. I think mechanically it's a little weak. I think it needed just a little bit more mechanically. But I love a lot of the side characters, and I'm really torn on where it's going to go in my top 10 for now. I'm not torn on Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, which is the only game this year that made me ugly cry. I'm not talking just like, hey, it made me shed a few tears. Hey, this moment was sad. I ugly cried. I was a mess in this chair. That is a wonderful game. And if you've played everything up to this point, it will mean so much more. If you haven't, I think it's still a really solid game. And I don't think you have to have played everything to understand, but I think there will be some things that just don't make sense for you. And it does absolutely spoil Like a Dragon 7. So you should play that one first at least, because it absolutely spoils that. But I really enjoyed this one. It absolutely incredible game. Ryu was a great new addition to the cast. Play the Princess was next, and this is a super cool visual novel. Every action that you take affects your ending, and every ending that you take affects the ultimate ending. And you can do it forever. You can just keep doing the different permutations. And I haven't seen all the permutations yet. I think it would be an incredible undertaking to try to see all of the permutations. But I've seen 10 of them at this point, of final permutations, and man, is it good. Such a good game. The interactions between the hero and the princess are incredible. Just the varying different ways of how it can all play out while the narrator feeds you things, and it's narrated by Jonathan Sims, not the character from the Magnus Archives, but the voice actor of Jonathan Sims from the character from the Magnus Archives. It's incredible and absolutely worth playing. Just be advised, there is gore. At some point, somebody gets degloved. Just keep that in mind if you're somebody that has a weak stomach. Really, really good game, but keep that in mind. And then lastly, for the games I beat, is Lies of P. I beat this live on stream last night, just like I beat Sea of Stars this morning, but Lies of P is a really, really good game. I know I keep saying that for all these, but there's a reason I chose to beat these, right? Lies of P is the first game by this studio, and you could have told me that and I would not have believed you. Because, man, is it really deep and thought out and well made. There are a couple things that I'm like, all right, I don't know if I like the way that works, but otherwise, this is a pretty good game. I had a really good time with it, and I can't wait to play it again. I had to stop myself on stream last night from going further in New Game Plus because I was enjoying myself so much. It is an absolutely wonderful game, and your choices matter. You can wind up with different endings, of course. A lot of games do that, but it just felt really interesting the way it all ties in with the story of Pinocchio, and there's a sequel tease at the end, and I'm really excited for that. I went heavy strength weapon because that's how I play every Souls game. Every Souls-like, I start with a heavy strength weapon. Did not let me down. Had a great time. Shovel halberd for the win. Pipe hammer for the win. Now, for games that I haven't finished yet, we're going to start with the ones that I absolutely am forcing myself to finish before the month ends. Octopath Traveler 2 is a game that I have to see the end of. I put it on the back burner because every year I try to have games that are my reward for beating other games. It is my, hey, this is a game I know I want to beat, so I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to wait for it, and it's going to be the carrot on the end of the stick for me to finish all the other work I've got to get done so I can play that. And you may say, well, that's a really callous way of looking at it, but it's a way to keep me focused so that I don't spread my focus too far. And if you say, well, what do you mean by that? Remember that I beat 4 games this week. That's not because I sat down, started each of them, and beat them within the week, because I was playing all 4 of them at the same time, bouncing between the 4. I really have focus problems, and so keeping Octopath Traveler 2 as like a special prize back here for me to come back to is what helped me focus to beat all the other games. I'm really excited to get back to it. I love the characters, I love the music, I love the world, I love the combat. I cannot wait to see how those character stories end. Particio is my boy, and I cannot wait. In that same vein is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, the DLC. I know DLC normally doesn't get a place in most people's top 10s, but I can't just let this DLC go by. Once it got announced, I had to have it. I had to play it, and it is waiting for me. Once I finish Octopath, it will be Xenoblade time. So stoked for that. After that is Baldur's Gate 3, which I'm playing with my wife, and we are almost done with. We've got a couple campaigns going, but we're right at the end of the big one. We are in Act 3. We have done most of the things. There are very few things left to do. Looking to wrap that up soon. It's been an absolute blast so far, and I cannot wait to see how it ends. Really, really enjoyed my time with it. There's a couple problems that I have. Act 3 has a lot of issues. Some of them mechanical that can be fixed with patches. Some of them intrinsic to the way the game is built, in that Act 3 needs you to get all the way through the city before you're allowed to make some choices, and it feels very railroady. That's just something I'm going to have to come to terms with, I think, because I think that's the only way that's going to be. But we'll see. They've been updating a lot. Maybe they'll fix that. Either way, I've really enjoyed my time with Baldur's Gate 3, and I love Act 1 and Act 2 so much. Act 3, I'm like, yeah, this is good now. At first, it was not so much. Now I'm like, yeah, this is good. Don't love it as much as Act 1 and Act 2, but I'm hoping that the ending could win me over for it, because I really, really love Act 1 and Act 2. From there, we get into the games that I've put some time into, and some is more than others, depending. Planet of Lana is a game that I put a good little bit of time into. One of the 4 hours that is expected to be able to beat it, and so I'll probably go back and try to portion out 3 hours to finish it. It's a really, really fun little game, and I just want those characters to be okay. So I definitely want to see the ending this year if I can. Coon is like that as well, where it's a pretty short game, and I've got a good little chunk into it. I want to try and finish that one as well, but we'll see how doable that is, while also trying to finish Octopath Traveler 2, Xenoblade 3, Future Redeemed, and Baldur's Gate. Ultimately, I want to beat these games for sure. I just don't know if they're going to be able to finish or not, if we're going to be able to get the time for it. Another one like that is Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, which is only about 8 to 10 hours long, and I'm about 4 hours in. But that 4 hours that I could put in there could also go towards Cocoon or Planet of Lana. So I've got some choices I got to make, and I'll figure that out as I go. Like a Dragon Ishin is a game that I really want to put more time into, but I don't think it's happening. It's not a super long game, but it's not super short either. And in that same vein is Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Both are really cool, and I like them a lot. I just don't think they're going to happen in the time I have left for the month. Remnant from the Ashes 2 is another game that I really want to put more time into. I've got early impressions. I almost said second impressions because that's what Rundgren called it on the podcast. I've got an early impressions video planned for that. I want to try and get that out before the end of the month, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do this one. In fact, I'm almost positive I'm not, because I want to see more content for it before the review, which would mean that I would have to play through it multiple times, and I just don't see time being able to be put for that. And while we're talking about games that we're probably not going to be able to finish, Persona 5 Tactica is not a short game, and I just don't have time for it right now. It looks cool. I like the vibe. I love the way the combat works. I just don't think it's going to happen. I said 10 earlier, but it's actually 12 because I forgot 2 more that I didn't put on my list for some reason. Tactics Ogre Reborn, which I put about 15 hours into, and is a really, really cool tactics game. I never got to beat the original. I played a lot of the original, but I never got to beat the original Tactics Ogre, so I was really excited when Reborn came out, and unfortunately there's just no time at the end of this year for a tactics game. And the other one is BattleBit Remastered, which is a really fun shooter that I've put about 6 hours into, and I really enjoyed. Probably not going to put too much more time into it this year, but we may do a stream at some point, and we'll probably put some more time into it. And that leads us into the games that I wanted to play so badly, but I didn't even start because I knew I wasn't going to have time to beat them this year. First off is Chia. That game looks super cool. I really want to play it, but I just don't think it's going to get time. Blasphemous 2. I liked the first one, even though I never finished it. I kind of want to go back and replay the first one before I play the second one, which means there's definitely no time for it. Starfield, I tried to play for Game Pass. My PC can't play it. It can play a lot of stuff. It can't play Starfield, so that one's not happening. Pizza Tower looks so cool. I want to play it so bad, but there's just not going to be time for me to dedicate to it. Jedi Survivor looks pretty cool. I liked the first one quite a bit, but I just don't think... I keep trying to call it Jedi Protocol in my mind. I just don't think it's going to happen. Chance of Sonar looks really, really cool. There's a chance it could get subbed in for one of the other games that has to be beaten, but it's up against Planet of Lana or Cocoon, which is tough, but I really want to play it. It looks super cool. Viewfinder and Humanity are two other indie games that I was not able to touch on. They both look really, really interesting, and I've heard a lot of people talking about them, but they're just not going to happen this year. Dredge is one that I really wanted to play, and it is up there on the list with Chance of Sonar for like, hey, this could sub in for like Wolong if we wind up having some more time at the end of the year. Dave the Diver is another one of those that I was like, man, people really talk really well about this game. I want to check it out, but I don't think I can commit to it at this point. And then we have like the remakes for a minute here. We have Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, System Shock remake, and Mario RPG remake. That's just no way. There's just no way. I love all of those games, the originals. I just don't see it happening. And I've heard people talk so good about RE4 remake, heard people talk so much good about Dead Space remake. I know people love the Mario RPG remake, and the System Shock remake looks really cool. Just not going to happen. I didn't prioritize the remakes because I played the originals, and I like them well enough. I'm sorry. I really wanted to. It's just not going to happen. Jusant is a game that looks really cool about climbing, and unfortunately, it's going to have to climb its way into next year because no way. Spider-Man 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2 looks really cool. I liked the first one a lot. There's no way I'm putting an open world game in this late into the year. I'm so sorry. I know there were people that were excited for me to play it. It's just not going to happen. Pikmin 4, honestly, this is like at the bottom of the list for me of I really wanted to play it. I've just heard people talk about how good it is, and it made me go, man, I kind of want to try that. Alan Wake 2 looks great. This is like right up there with Dredge and Chance of Sonar of games that I really wanted to play this year. Every time it's been brought up throughout the year over the podcast, I've said, man, I really want to get the time to play that. Just don't see it happening. And then finally, just released this week, Rogue Trader, or last week, depending on when this video goes up, Rogue Trader, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, CRPG. There's no way I can put another CRPG in this late in the year. It's just not going to happen. I love Game of the Year. Even if it does put us in a tight spot sometimes trying to finish games before the end of it, it's a really fun time of the year for me. I watch a lot of different podcasts for Game of the Year. I check out a bunch of different Game of the Year lists. I really love Game of the Year as a construct, and I think that it's a really fun thing that we do. I think it unfortunately leads to disappointments and leads to expectations. And I'm somebody that really dislikes feeling like I let somebody down. It really eats at me when I feel like I let people down. So it is a shame that there's not enough time to play all these games, but there's just not. And I prioritize the games that I was interested in the most. I'm sure there'll be some of you in the comments that are disappointed that I didn't get to your favorite game, but let me know why I should play it next year. Let me know why it should be like Chained Echoes here, where it's a game that I went back to, or like Guild Wars 2, or Lord of the Rings Online. Let me know which of these games you're most excited for Game of the Year, and let me know which one is your personal Game of the Year, and let me know if I missed something that's really cool. I love talking about this stuff, and I love digging into why we love games, and I don't know that I did a great job today in explaining why I picked the games that I picked to play and to beat, but I did really enjoy playing all of them. Even the ones that I had some major criticisms with, I still think are really solid games. Budgets are a concern. Time is a concern. This was an incredible year for games, but there's a lot of games that came out. Ultimately, nobody can play them all. Let me know which ones you played. I'm really curious. I don't regret putting 5 full playthroughs into Armored Core, and there's still a chance before Game of the Year that I might put a 6th one in. I don't regret it at all. I love that game. Was there a game on this list that was like that for you? And ultimately, what do you think about Game of the Year? Let's start a conversation here, because I love talking about this. But sorry if I let you down. See you on the other side of all this nonsense that Game of the Year is every year. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Game of the Year has to offer.